Hey everybody, this is Minus, and I am with Nathan, and today we made it to episode 5. Some people would be like, why do you separate making it to every episode? Because this shit's hard.
It's a victory. Every episode's another victory.
It's not about hits, it's not about views. It's about the fact that we're still best friends, let's say best YouTube friends.
There you go.
And we still find something to talk about and something we've played together, so why not? So episode 5, Nathan.
This one's going to be a good one. This is Punch-Out. I think it's engraved in all of our hearts. It's a good one. It's a classic.
This one was definitely an early love of mine. And when I talk Punch-Out, I'm going to be very clear here. It's Mike Tyson's Punch-Out.
That's right. I was hoping you would say that. It's not Mr. Dream. What was that his name? Mr. Dream.
Mr. Dream, yep. So with Punch-Out for me, so when I was a young kid, me and my dad used to game together. He was a big gaming fan. He actually got me into it. It's funny because he can't play anything anymore.
Yes.
So,
all right.
So I have this cabinet full of NES games. I had 2 of them, and every time I'd go to my dad's for the weekend, we would actually get a new game or 2. You know, he didn't have a lot of money, but he would spend it on us playing video games, which was kind of cool. And this was a game that he played religiously. Like, I'm not even kidding. He lived, breathed, ate, slept Punch-Out. And, you know, you had the codes when you got so far where you could start at them. And I will tell you this story. He played it all the time. I wasn't very good at it. I liked to play it. I got good later. But he was really good at it. And I remember watching him. He fought Super Macho Man. We'll get into some of the fights, but he fought Super Macho Man for weeks. And I'm sitting there, and I'm little. My dad's a real big dude, and I'm sitting there, and he beats him. And I jump up as a little kid, and I'm like, and he looks at me. He's like screaming, and he gives me a high five so hard that it hits my head, and I fly backwards, like literally high fived me through the air. And he's like,
victories were so much sweeter back then, weren't they?
Yeah,
like
you earned it.
Yeah, it took a long time. Like, you would have to dedicate yourself for a large quantity of time to actually get good at some of these games.
Yeah, and it was funny because I think one of the reasons I love Punch-Out is because he was so good at it, and I was pretty young, and it took me a lot longer to get good at this game, but I constantly kept playing it because my dad was really good at it. There were games I could beat him at, you know, as a kid, but that was the game. He was really good at that, and I wanted to be good. I wanted to sort of be able to challenge his times and stuff like that, so it was important. Right? Yeah, right? So it was weird. It was this weird little bonding between the two of us from Punch-Out. It was pretty funny.
But I had a cousin who didn't necessarily live close to me, but didn't live that far away, and me and him were the people who, if he got a new game, then I had to go to his house. If I got a new game, he had to come to my house. But he had neighbors who were much older than us. They were like teenagers, and we were still little kids. And they had a huge collection of games. Like, they had every game, it seemed like, at least. And that's where I played Punch-Out for the first time. And what's funny is, you know, they were older than us, and we were just little kids. So, like, you know, I don't even know why they let us come over and play their Nintendo. We probably got on their nerves. So, like, it was kind of like, you know how guys are, especially when we were young. We kind of got beat up, you know. They kind of beat us up. It was worth it. We would still go over there to play the NES games.
Yep.
And that's just kind of what it reminds me of, like, just going over there to their house and fighting for your life, and also playing Punch-Out.
So for me, when I think Punch-Out, I think Glass Joe.
Yeah, me too, definitely. That's the first thing that comes to my mind, because I always hated typing in the codes, man. I was kind of lazy, I guess, as a kid.
So you just start at the beginning.
Yeah, I would just almost always just like, I'm not writing that down. I'll just start over. Like, I hardly ever did it.
If only we had cell phones, you could just take a picture of the screen.
Yeah, just take a picture. I would have done that, you know. But
think about that back in the day. You have a Polaroid camera.
Somebody out there did that. Somebody out there did that.
Oh, okay. Sorry, I distracted. Wait, how do I get to bold? So, I'm sorry, I interrupted, but Glass Joe, right? So, the first fight.
Okay, so I got to say something about it.
Okay.
I never had any trouble with him,
No.
at all. But I'll tell you something funny that I found out later in life. Mike Tyson never even beat him. Like the real Mike Tyson. Yeah, seriously, look it up. He never even could beat Glass Joe.
That's amazing. Yeah, that's good. That's good stuff. So Mike couldn't play his own game.
No, he was terrible at his own
I
game.
wish I could do a really good Mike Tyson impersonation, because that would be fantastic. Like Mike Tyson yelling at Glass Joe. Glass Joe.
Oh, Glass Joe. Okay.
Come on.
Can make it.
Oh man, he'd walk back and he'd come running at you, and it was the slowest run, and you're just like, yeah, uppercut, you're done.
You remember about Glass Joe? He had only won one match, and if you looked it up, maybe in the book, maybe in the manual, he had beat somebody really good, and it was by accident.
After him, you fought the German guy with the mustache, right?
Yep.
And he would you'd do like the mustache up and down would be like his trigger.
Yes.
I think his name was I have it here. It's Von Kaiser.
That's right, Von Kaiser. Yeah.
And he would just do when you just like kind of sit there and mustache would move, and that was his trigger. That was about it.
Yeah.
And he kind of stood still, right? Mustache would go, and he'd kind of like throw a punch.
Yeah.
After him, you fought. Was it after him that you had fought Great Tiger? He had the turban on, and it would like flash when he'd throw punches, and he wouldn't move at all. You just have to watch the flash, so you didn't get like a big visual of him coming at you. You would just get the little flash on the turban, then he'd hit. And then after him, I think, was Piston Honda, right?
That sounds about right. The first title fight.
Yeah, we might have mixed that up a little bit, but that's pretty close. And he just threw some mad uppercuts.
Yeah. The uppercut could almost like maybe half your health. It tore you up.
Yeah, and he'd go. Yeah, I mean, they were pretty brutal.
You could kind of see it coming, right?
And then you had King Hippo.
Oh, classic.
Super classic.
The most classic. And I don't know if that's mainly because after that it got really hard, so I didn't make it much further. I don't know. But dude, that's like...
What a great fight.
The Nintendo show, dude.
What a fight, right? You can't hurt the guy until you punch him in the mouth. And then his pants fall down.
Yeah.
And he's got the little Band-Aid on his belly button and just start popping him. I mean... It's funny because a lot of the game, for the most part, for an NES game, was pretty serious, right? Yeah. There were goofy things, but King Hippo was like a complete standout, weird character, weird mechanics, and he'd live on through. He wasn't in Super Punch Out, but he was in the Punch Out for Wii.
Yeah.
They brought him back, and he had like a hard mode where he had like armor on his belt. Some crazy stuff with that. But yeah, that character's a pretty iconic Nintendo character.
And I'll tell you something else very interesting about that character is all the other characters in Punch-Out, the original Punch-Out NES, were reskins of one another. Mm-hmm. Except for he was the only one with his own unique sprite. But they didn't do any color swap outs or anything like that. So that helped them stand out some more too.
The first wall that really stands out for me was Bulbo.
Yeah, with
Bulbo.
The charge.
Yeah, and you know what was funny about him is like when you were getting close to beating him, you know, at first like certain enemies that you fight in a game, if you catch them during like their special, that's how you beat them. And with Bulbo, it was really hard. Like as a kid, I remember the timing was perfect or not. I mean, he came at you and you threw a gut punch. And if you caught the gut punch, was that?
I'd like to see like what the actual, because I know somebody has them now. The actual physical stats of how many frames you actually have to get that just right. It's definitely small.
Yeah, it felt real small. And every time you thought you had it, he'd come through with the uppercut and just wipe you out, and you were done. You got hit by that, you were done.
Yeah,
and towards
feel fair.
In the beginning of the fight, you could avoid it. And he would try it like 2 times or something, and you'd avoid it and you'd be okay. If you didn't want to try to go for the knockout and you just wanted to be safe, you could avoid it. But as the fight went on, he wouldn't stop. I remember him doing it like 10 times in a row. Like, I'm going to hit you or you're going to hit me. You can't avoid this. Which is a pretty interesting mechanic. And you would fight him later and he was even faster. Didn't you fight him twice, I think, in the game?
I think so. Sounds like it, yeah.
So it was that's another. I mean, it's really funny when you think about Punch-Out how many iconic characters this game has that I think a lot of gamers would know today. You know, you had Mario as the referee.
True.
Right, which was a little cool thing. I mean, we haven't even talked about Little Mac yet. Little Mac's in Smash Brothers. I mean, he's lived on incredibly. So.
Yeah, and he's one of those. He's like the underdog of the Nintendo franchise because, man, Little Mac's awesome. One thing real quick before we move on, because this kind of ties into Lil Mac, the other character that nobody ever talks about, and unfortunately I don't remember his name, so it's not going to make it much better, but your coach.
Doc?
What was his?
Lewis.
Doc. Was that Doc?
Doc. They usually call him Doc, but it was Doc Lewis.
Do you watch, have you ever watched the show The Office, the American version?
Yes, but I couldn't say that I've seen them all, for sure.
What's the guy's name? There's a guy from The Office that is Doc, dude.
Oh, yeah, I know who you're talking about.
You know
He's always real, just like dry. He's always like,
yeah, that's the Doc, dude. If they ever make a movie, a Punch-Out, Nintendo, if you ever make a movie, there's your guy, there's your Doc.
But yeah, so you bring up Doc. Nathan, I'm going to ask a very important question. Why did Little Mac dress in a pink furry outfit when he would chase him?
I know the answer. I know the answer to this.
Okay.
Because it was the 1980s.
Just the generic answer that yes, that checks the boxes.
I think that passes the smell test.
Then it got pretty tough. And Don Flamingo we didn't talk about yet because you fight him twice. The first time you fight him, he's a joke. He's almost like a second. He has like a couple moves that were difficult, but he was sort of like a second Last Joe. It didn't seem very hard. You fight him again later, and he was hard as hell.
Yeah. Yeah.
He had the rose in his mouth, and he was very fast, shifty type of moving when he'd hit you. But man, I remember it was funny because like as a kid, I said I was really trying to get good at the game. And when I got to him, like, oh yeah, no problem. And he just whooped me bad.
Yeah.
So it's kind of cool that they pulled him up to be like a really strong character from being a weak character. I thought that was interesting. So, but then you get into the big boys. I guess the way I would rank them would be probably Mr. Sandman.
Yeah.
Who he would, even when he was stunned and you think you could catch him, he'd block.
Yeah.
So you had to throw a lot of gut punches to him because he would usually block his face. Even when you were like ready, like, oh, this is where I'm going to get him or I'm going to use a super punch, and he would block your super punch.
Yeah. He was the end of my run many times. Yeah. Many times. That was as far as I got. And, many times. And
his move, I don't know, his move was called the Dream Express. Because I remember in the loading screens, like when the coaches would talk, it was like something about the Dream Express is coming or something. But Mr. Sandman was tough, and he was just a reskin of Bald Bull.
Yeah.
With a different face, obviously. It's kind of funny. But Mr. Sandman was tough. Mr. Sandman was probably, I got stuck on Bald Bull, but I would get through him. I was stuck on Sandman. He was a wall for sure.
Yeah, Bald Bull was one of those where you would feel like, I'm pretty sure I'm gonna, 80% sure once you got used to him.
You'd blame yourself when you missed that punch, like how many?
Right.
Then you kind of get to your top three. You had Soda Popinski, who was really hard. Funny story about him. His name was Drunkinski.
Yeah, I thought it was vodka. Wasn't it like vodka?
I thought it was Drunkin. Oh, like vodka poppin or Drunkinski, something like that. It was
I think it was vodka Drunkinski, and he was still drunk though in the NES version because he would say like something like, "I can't drive, so I'm just gonna beat you up" or something like that.
And what they did is they called him Soda Popinski instead, and then like on the bottle it just says soda. And he's like, and it's written so bad, like. You can like tell it. Like someone in Microsoft Paint just wrote it on there. But man, was he hard. He hit super hard. He was really unpredictable and he was really aggressive. Like he wouldn't block. Like some of the guys that were tough blocked a lot. He didn't block, but like if you weren't ready after your attack to be evading, you were going to get crushed. He would throw those jabs and just, it was crazy. And your timing had to be so quick because even if you were just a little off on the first one, you wouldn't have time to get away from the second one. So again, going back to the story of my dad high-fiving me across the room, super macho man. So a couple things about him. One, I was a WWE fan,
Okay.
or WWF at that time. So
Right.
Macho Man, to me, was Macho Man Randy Savage, right? You know,
Right.
"Ooh,
Yeah, me too.
yeah. That
Yeah.
was Macho Man. But there was also the Macho Man boxer. So I was always curious, what was his name? Macho Camacho or something like that.
Something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I was always curious because the character was very flamboyant, right? I was curious which character influenced that character more. There had to be one of those two characters had to be the reason that character's name was Super Macho Man. Had to be.
Yeah.
Did that crazy ass spin punch.
Oh, the spin punch.
Do you
Yeah,
remember
that's
that?
right. Yeah, heck yeah, dude.
And you didn't know when it was over. Like
Yeah.
it wasn't something you countered, you had to survive it. So, you know,
Yeah.
you would duck and then he would keep going. You'd duck again and then he'd keep going and he'd duck again and be like, okay, please stop. And
Yeah,
there's
'cause you
times
couldn't just stay down, or you couldn't just stay left or
Yeah.
right. It was only like a moment, you know?
Yep. And as he, I remember it would get faster later in the fight. And like, if you didn't time the downs quick enough, you'd come up at an awkward time and he'd catch you. You were done if it hit you. And you know,
And
he
the
used
down was the only thing you could do.
That's it. You could, I think you could, maybe not until the Super Nintendo, you could block it. I think you could block it, but your blocking meter, remember you had that meter that would go down, you'd have like stamina?
Yeah.
You took such a huge hit if you blocked it, and it wasn't very good to do. So you just, you had to
Yeah,
duck.
because then you wouldn't be able to land in a punch or whatever.
Yeah, because if he would block, it would make you like all dazed. Yep.
Yeah.
But he was the guy. Even, you know what's funny? I remember him because of that moment more than I remember Mike Tyson. But man, he was awesome, and he was in Super Punch Out later, and he was awesome in that too. So
I didn't know. Now we're getting to the point where I almost never made it any further.
so I'm going to openly admit
I made
this.
it to Tyson, but not
I never beat
often
Tyson
at all. I never beat him either.
I never
I
beat
got to
Tyson.
him. I thought it was impossible, to be honest.
Yeah.
I thought nobody beat him. I thought it was part of the game.
But yeah, so my dad did beat him. I never
Wow.
beat him. I didn't even. I don't even know if I made it through a round. The thing
Yeah, I
with
never even knew
Tyson,
anybody.
and I think
beat
the
him.
hardest round was the first round. I think they designed him to be like his real life. He just knocked everyone out in the first round. So
Yeah.
like the first round was a ton of evading. Like you really didn't get a lot of chances to hit him. But then the fight would sort of slow down a little bit later into the fight, if I remember right. So,
Okay.
but yeah, I mean, he was so fast. Like, I just as a kid, I didn't have the dexterity at all. Didn't have the dexterity, so I never
They
beat
did
him.
a good job making it look like him.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, we're talking about. I mean, when we look at some NES games and how bad their graphics are, yeah, they did a good job.
Yeah, like compare, like for example, Mike Tyson. I know it's a much bigger sprite, but compare that to. Do you remember like the Home Alone game? Compare.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, the Home Alone
Did a
game.
pretty good job, man.
Yeah, I agree. So the whole thing you kind of brought up earlier about like the way this game was designed was pretty awesome. This game was the modern day. It's gonna sound weird. Music game.
It was.
Whether it was Guitar Hero, drumming on Rock Band, Amplitude, it was about pattern recognition.
Yeah, and rhythm, right?
And rhythm. Yeah, and it was rhythm in their movement. So this was sort of the first game where to be good at this game, the only option you had was to memorize it and to play it over and over and over. You know, you couldn't use other game experience to get through Punch-Out.
And what also, like you just said, but to take it a step further, that made this game so memorable to anybody who was alive at that time, was that, you know, we already had things like Nintendo Power, right?
Yeah.
That would have strategies and stuff. But I mean, come on, let's be honest. The strategies were kind of not necessary in most cases. I mean, besides like maybe
Like level maps in Mario. was
right.
pretty good, yeah.
But for Punch-Out, man, some of your friends were getting the advice from Nintendo Power, or you might have been that guy who had the Nintendo Power.
Once
first.
he does this move, this is it was.
And
was
it
pretty
made
crazy.
you just a legend amongst your peers. Because
Oh,
you'd
yeah.
be like, nah, I know how to beat this. Give me the controller.
Nathan, fifth show
Five show.
in the books.
Done.
Done.
Number 6 coming up 2 weeks.
Yeah, we did the math right? Yeah. Okay.
good enough at least.
As always, guys, in the comments, let us know what you want us to talk about. We've played quite a bit of games, and we'd be glad to see if we can relate to any of the games you guys have out there. This is obviously something we do for fun, everybody. It's just a reason for me and Nathan to spend time together.